Hello, it's Nancy Hoyer Evans again. I'm the curriculum coordinator for iPathways, and today I'm going to be doing my Sylvester impression because I had to have some dental work done in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I have a little bit of a lisp as I'm getting used to my new hardware in my mouth. But that should not stop us today from talking about a very important subject. Today I'm going to be discussing the 5 steps of writing. Whenever we start a new project, it's really intimidating to take something out of our heads and put it out into the world, and it feels like you're trying to hold a cloud. Okay, you can't get your arms around what do I have to create, especially if you're not a confident writer. So I wanted to give you some steps today that will help you feel like at least the process is manageable. Okay, there are 5 steps, as I said. I'm going to have some visual aids here. 5 steps of writing. And the very first one is to come up with a topic. And we call that the brainstorming process. I'm sure you've heard this term before, but if you haven't, I want you to actually visualize a storm in your brain. And the storm is going to generate wind, which is going to generate ideas. The key with brainstorming is to not interrupt the process by second guessing yourself, okay? I find it useful to just write down or type up anything that comes to mind. So you read your writing prompt, whatever your instructor or your boss has given you, and you read it several times so you're sure you understand what they're asking for. And then just sit down and write everything that comes to mind, and don't put the brakes on. Don't do what I call, which is red lighting, which is guessing or critiquing or judging any of your ideas. Just get them all out there. Think of it like you're flushing your pipes, okay? You're getting them all out onto the page so that you can see what they look like on the outside, all right? And this is super important because this is where you're going to be, these are the pieces you're going to use to build your piece of writing. So don't shortchange it. Leave yourself time to do a good job with this. This is where your architecture is going to come from for your piece of writing. So that is brainstorming. That is the first step. Make sure you take that one with full knowledge of how important it is. All right, second step, planning. Now, what I want you to do here is I want you to look at what you've created. Okay, you can piece through, think of it like sifting for gold. You're going to look at everything that's come out in your brainstorming process, and you're going to see, are there some ideas that are in common? Is there something that I really felt very strongly about and that really kind of generated some passion as I was writing about it? Like, ooh, hey, this is going to work. And you look at these ideas and you sort through them, and you also look back at your prompt again to make sure that the ideas that you're looking at, that you're drawn to, are actually going to match the writing task. You might here use your pen, scribble. You might circle the ideas that are your favorite ones. You might actually number them, like, oh, this one seems really good. This is my number 1. I think that one's probably it. But don't stop. Look at the rest of your ideas and give yourself a 2, 3, 4, and 5 if you have them there. Probably what's going to happen at this point is you'll select one. You'll see that one really kind of bubbles up to the surface as your favorite idea, but it might not be as well developed as it probably should be because this is still early stages. So now what I'd like you to do at that point is do a little focused free writing, which is you take that prompt again and you take the topic that you think is probably the one, and now you focus your brainstorming on just that topic, and you write down everything you know, the questions you have, things you think your audience would be interested in, whatever tumbles through your mind at that time. So you have some more information, okay? Now you have everything you need to go to the next step. The next step is drafting. Drafting is actually the writing part. But if you've done the first 2 steps well, then you have what you need. What you're going to do is create a clean copy here. You're going to take your idea, your main idea that you've settled on from your brainstorming, and you're going to look at all of your free writing, and you're going to start to order those things and write them in sequence. Okay, so that you can see, are there still holes there? Does this make sense? Would somebody else reading this actually be able to understand the goings on inside my brain? All right, once you have that draft and you have kind of a semblance of order, don't think that you're done. This is where a lot of students make a mistake. They just turn that in. That's not enough. Okay, if you really want to improve your writing skills, if you really want to step up your game, that's just the 3rd step of 5. All right, once you have that draft, now what I recommend you do is you read it aloud. Long before we learn to read, we learn the language. So our ears know a lot more about what sounds good and whether that sentence is complete than we give them credit for. So read it aloud or have somebody else read it aloud to you so that you can go, oh, wait, there's a missing idea there. Okay. You might also try having somebody else in your family read it for you. Because what happens when we write too is that we have these thoughts and they're so well developed inside our heads. I mean, we can see them, we understand them perfectly, and then we put them down on the paper, and then somebody else's brain comes along and wants to look at these thoughts, and it doesn't make as much sense from the outside. So we need that other brain to come and tell us what's missing from this picture. How can I make this more understandable for a different brain than mine? Okay, so that is the drafting phase. And then once you get that, comes a very important phase. I'm sure that in your writing past, you've had people talk about revising or revision. And I would encourage you to think of this as revisioning your paper. See it from the outside. One of the best ways to do that is to write your draft soon enough that you can just set it down and let it cool off, okay? So that when you look at it, it is fresh to your brain and your brain isn't filling in those gaps. You can really see it like somebody else would see it. That will help you catch missing ideas. It will help you see if the transitions actually work from one idea to another as you're moving through your subject matter. And that revision is where you might actually move a paragraph, or you might say, oh, that needs a little bit more writing. So revision is actually still, you're dealing with structure and content on revision. That is not the point at which you clean up all the surface errors. All right, that is the final step, which is editing. And I think of this as the makeup and the hair for your paper. You don't do the makeup and the hair before you take your shower, which is your revising. You have to clean it up, the content and the organization before you make it pretty. Okay, the editing has to do with surface errors like punctuation and commas, usage. Does it all look like it's in standard English? So these 5 steps should help you feel like you have kind of a map of how to approach a writing assignment. And I will tell you that if you feel intimidated by the process, you are not alone. Anybody who writes has this same struggle. If you look at blogs or at tell-all books by authors, they often write about that starting a project phase, about how sometimes it just feels like that blank page is just mocking you as it's waiting to be filled with all of your brilliance. So think of these 5 steps, walk yourself through them. You'll find that you're going to customize it as you go. Sometimes the brainstorming part is easy for some people. Sometimes the drafting part is easy. But try to do them in this sequence and see if that doesn't help you feel like you're actually able to manage the process of creating a piece of writing a little better. All right, have a great week. I'll see you back here in 2 weeks, and hopefully I won't be lisping anymore. Take care, stay safe. Bye.